Brilliant to have your company. All right, so you will know the government is forcing landlords to install rental properties, insulate them under fresh changes to our tenancy law. It's also making smoke alarms compulsory. It comes after 2 recent deaths were linked to cold and damp conditions in state homes, sparking calls to improve standards for tenants. With me now is Mangere Budgeting Services CEO Darryl Evans. Darryl, good morning.
Good morning, Paul.
Great to have you here. This hasn't gone far enough to please you, really, has it?
I think it's a really good start, but the fact is it doesn't go far enough. I mean, advocates around the country truly want a building warrant of fitness to ensure that the properties are safe, they're well maintained, and they're easy to heat. Our families are living, for the most part, in cold, damp houses. Now, that's not to say that there are some really good landlords who already have insulated houses with smoke alarms.
And we should mention that, actually. For a lot of landlords, this is going to make no difference at all because they're already making sure that this is happening.
Absolutely. Some very good landlords. But the reality is we do go into houses that are extremely cold. Our young children are getting sicker by the day. My particular concern, especially since I've moved to North Waikato, very cold and frosty this morning, 0 degrees. Our pensioners there are really good. They're cold. They simply don't have enough money after they've paid the rent to turn on the power. And even if you do turn on the power, if it's uninsulated, it takes twice as long to heat the home.
And that's important because this is why the insulation will make a big difference. And I've heard people complaining about this, saying the problem is not insulation, it's heating. Well, you can't heat an uninsulated house.
Absolutely.
So this will help with that.
I truly believe it does. The reality is if it's uninsulated, when you turn the heating on, it takes twice as long. And in many instances, there's no improvement. Now, heating doesn't have to be a heat pump. It can be as simple as a flat panel eco heater, which would cost the average landlord $75 from the warehouse.
Yeah.
And
you do have the issue, though, that there are lots of tenants that couldn't afford to switch them on. So even that doesn't solve that. But so you are saying then this is a step in the right direction,
Absolutely.
but they could have gone further.
Totally. I mean, the reality is we are seeing houses that have very poor plumbing. They have stoves that don't work. And in one house that I've recently been to where the tenant pays $260 a week, they don't have a bathroom. Now, it should be absolutely...
How can they not have a bathroom?
I've been asking the same question. They simply don't. What the
so
landlord
do they have a toilet?
There's no toilet. They converted the garage into a livable space without putting in toilet facilities. The tenant has lived there for 8 months.
Okay, well, these new rules that came into place take care of that, don't they? Because
absolutely.
One of the most important things I would have thought, and this seems to have been missed by a lot of the commentators who are talking about the insulation and the smoke alarms, it's the new powers that are being given to the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment to investigate and then fine landlords for breaking the tenancy law, and they have said specifically when it comes to health and safety of tenants.
Absolutely. And we commend the Minister for doing this. But it does need to go somewhat further to protect the most vulnerable.
Because you see, the thing that I'm thinking, because I see it from the other point of view as well, I mean, it would have been extraordinarily hard to police the warrant of fitness. It would have been extraordinarily expensive to operate the warrant of fitness proposal. And some landlords, and you must know this, some landlords who are marginal anyway would have just thrown it in and said, look, this is the final straw, it's just not worth doing.
True, I understand that, Paul, but the reality is you have to have a warrant of fitness for your car. So the warrant of fitness doesn't say that you can have good lights but poor tyres.
But in a sense, Darryl, isn't this Ministry of Business Innovation, aren't these new powers, aren't they effectively the warrant of fitness? Because people say, how do you police it? Well, you police it because you've got a tenant in every rental property, and if something's wrong, they have every right then to go to the tribunal and say this is wrong, and we've got a ministry that can investigate. As long as the person
assessing the property goes in and assesses the right things. If you're simply assessing whether they have a smoke alarm and insulation, in my opinion, and certainly in the housing advocate sphere, and they meet in my office bi-monthly, we're emergency housing providers, we're looking at substandard housing.
Yeah.
It doesn't go far enough now, but we commend the government. At least they've taken the first step.
Okay. Is the situation, because it was obviously dire, we've seen 2 deaths directly linked with it, but surely there are some, I mean, and you see this firsthand, you're in the trenches with this, there are people living in appalling conditions, as you've outlined. Yeah. Is the situation going to improve on the ground as a result of the announcements yesterday?
I certainly think that there will be a lot of improvement. That's all we're saying is, and also 4 years, I think 4 years is too long. 48 months of kids getting sick needs to be sped up a little bit. Yes, it's a good start, but it truly needs to go further.
And hopefully landlords know they have to do this now. Hopefully they won't wait until the last day and they'll do it. Darryl, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Take care. Darryl Evans, Mangere Budgeting Services Trust CEO.